Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Waiting to rise again.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Quirks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the moment you've all been waiting for.
Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in a Friday edition, Football Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show here in the Raising Cane studio downtown Baton Rouge. Taylor Sharp sitting in the host chair for Hunt Palmer. He had a family issue he needed to deal with, and we were happy to give our guys some assistance. Not actually sure that that's correct, though. Yeah, Hunt might still be celebrating the Cubs' victory last night. I'm not sure.
Myers had his tonsils removed, so that was why he's with Myers today. Taking care of him, so that's why he's out.
Celebrating the Cubs victory.
Well, yeah, of course.
We'll go ahead and throw that in there.
We'll
talk Cubs a little later and take it or leave it, guys. Again, Football Friday. We're going to talk all things college football and NFL. I know LSU doesn't have a game, but I do have some thoughts on the LSU Tigers as they are kind of in their bye week, trying to hit reset after the loss to the Ole Miss Rebels. We got Jacob back. We got Cassie Spazzali. Paul O'Neill was in here earlier doing something. I don't know. We're all having fun on this Friday. And look, we're going to talk LSU here in just a second, but did you guys hear the big news? Did you hear the big news?
Are you talking about maybe specific musical artists maybe release an album today?
Yeah, Luke Combs released 3 songs today. No,
did he actually?
Luke Combs released 3 songs today, but that is not what I'm getting at.
That's pretty cool. I should listen to those.
Beck, it's the reason we're all smiling a little bit wider today. We're all standing a little bit taller. Why Cassie got to work a little bit later than she normally does. Because we were all staying up late last night listening to the new Taylor Swift album, right? I know Cassie was. She's got the Taylor Swift shirt on today and everything.
Yeah, were you actually listening? Did you listen to the whole thing, Cassie, or what?
I do have my Taylor Swift shirt on. However, that was a coincidence. It was just one on top.
Okay.
And I did not listen to the album.
When approached in the hallway by me and Matthew Musso about what do you think of the album, Cassie abruptly is like, guys, I'm not even a Swiftie. I didn't listen to the album. While wearing a Taylor Swift shirt in front of our face.
And
now, my theory is the reason Cassie has that shirt on, what do you do when you're listening to a Taylor Swift album? You throw on Taylor Swift gear, obviously. Cassie fell asleep in that shirt, woke up late, was like, crap, got to get to work, did her hair, came to work. That's where we're at.
And not only did she say it to you two, but also just hasn't not seemed very, very cordial today. It's been very, very...
This is a different Cassie Spazzali.
It really is.
Honestly, Beck, it's a little scary.
It is scary.
I flinched
I would agree with
times.
you. I mean,
it's like when you see a really sweet cat and you try to go pet it and they go and you kind of jerk it back a little bit. That's been Cassie all day long today.
It's not a bad description.
No, because Cassie's one of the nicest people in the building. She's normally pretty quiet. So you're like, oh, Cassie's very approachable. Not today. Do not get into the way of one Miss Cassie Spazzali. But Beck, I got to tell you, I know you're not the Swiftie that Miss Spazzali over here is.
I'm not.
But I bet you listened to it.
I have not listened to the new album yet.
Wow.
Pretty scandalous stuff, man.
That's what I've heard.
Taylor Swift has joined the dark side, my friend. I mean, we were looking up lyrics to the album like... I felt like I needed to go to church after reading a couple of them, dude. I mean, it was serious stuff.
Well, she did show with her Reputation album that she wasn't afraid to mix things up a little bit. But I haven't heard any of the songs yet. But you did explain one of the songs.
You don't need to hear them because
she's gone off the deep end.
Let's be honest. All the songs nowadays are so overly edited. You're not going to understand what she's saying anyways. Just go read the lyrics.
Yeah.
My theory is Travis Kelce wrote this entire album.
Really?
I think so. She mentions being on the whole block, bossing up and settling down. Who talks like that? This has Travis Kelce written all over it. Like, take away the scandalous nature of it. The songs aren't good. The lyrics aren't good.
Yeah.
Isn't that what she's kind of known for? Like, I don't know. I'm not a Swiftie, but I feel like
her storytelling.
I feel like everybody all the time's like, oh, well, her songs are just so deep. She's such a storyteller. No. When I read this, I was like, this kind of sounds like a 10-year-old. I was like, wait a minute. Travis Kelce wrote this album. Like, that's where I'm at. It was tough to read. Tough to read.
It's very different lyrics than what we're used to from Taylor, and I don't know if I like it.
I don't like it. You know what else I don't like, guys?
What?
The LSU running game. I don't like the LSU running game. Her album's tough to listen to. The LSU running game is tough to watch. And, you hear people all the time say, okay, well, what's going on with LSU's running game in 2025? You got bigger problems than that. LSU's running game issue is not a 2025 issue. LSU has not had a traditional running game since Brian Kelly's been here in 4 years. Now, you're going to say, well, what about Jaden Daniels? I'm talking traditional running game. I'm not talking about one of the best players in program history standing back there being Superman and making something out of nothing. I'm talking traditional running game behind the offensive line. You hadn't had it in 4 years. Now, is that Brian Kelly? Is that Brad Davis? Is that a combination of the two? Because, you've had two different offensive coordinators. I get criticizing Joe Sloan. A lot of people have done that. But your running game outside of Jaden Daniels wasn't great under Mike Denbrock. Now, you were good in short yardage. But again, how much of that was Jaden Daniels' scrambling ability, spreading out the defense, not crowding the box? You don't have that. You didn't have it last year. You damn sure don't have it this year. Your offensive line's not good. That's first and foremost. I think you have a problem at left tackle. Everyone wanted to criticize Weston Davis at right tackle, and I get it. He's been shaky. It's his first year starting, but Tyree Adams really hasn't been as advertised so far throughout the 2025 season either. He was actually your lowest graded offensive lineman in that loss to Ole Miss. He graded out at 51.8, by far the lowest. So your right tackle's been shaky. Your left tackle's been shaky. Since Braylon Moore came back from that ankle injury, he's been good. He's not quite what he was in that Clemson game. It's ironically probably your two most consistent offensive linemen, maybe Paul Mabinga and Josh Thompson. There were a lot of people out there that did not want Paul Mabinga to start because they remembered what he did in the Texas A&M game. But he got better. I think each game throughout that season last year, Texas A&M won. He graded a little bit higher each game than he did the previous game. So he showed improvement. And then when Josh Thompson came in, everyone thought he was going to be a starter, but there was always kind of a big debate on is he more guard or tackle. Those guys have probably been your most consistent. Again, does the offensive line issues, did they trace back to Brad Davis? Is it a Brian Kelly thing? That's a bigger issue altogether because you haven't had a running game in 4 years, in my opinion. But if you want to try to fix the running game here in 2025, something keeps getting brought up, and I just don't know if I can get behind it. So many people this week have brought up the name Michael Van Buren. And I get it. When your offense is struggling, you blame the quarterback. The quarterback's hurt. He's not playing well. This discussion of whether Garrett Nussmeier is hurt or not, if you watch the game, it is very obvious that Garrett Nussmeier is hurt. He can't throw the ball downfield. And go watch his entire throwing motion. It's completely different than it was a year ago. Everyone's going to point to the interceptions. He made bad decisions a year ago, but he knew how to throw the football. The guy can barely throw it 15 yards. He is obviously hurt. But I've seen people bring up, okay, well, what about Michael Van Buren? You can just put him in there and run the football. I disagree with that. Kelly was asked about this on Wednesday of, hey, do you have some packages? And he was asked about Michael Van Buren. And he mentioned, a package of a running quarterback in there, but he doesn't want to take Garrett Nussmeier off the field. Well, I'll tell you right now, the package he has that he is referring to, at least in fall camp, was not Michael Van Buren. It was Jawan Johnson. They ran it, I think, and I didn't make every single practice. I made most of them. Some of them were during OTB when we were on air and I couldn't make it out there. But I made most of them, and I think every single time I was out there, they were practicing on this little goal line situation or inside the 10, if you will. Jawan Johnson was at quarterback. You had Caden Durham. You had pick your running back. Malachi Lane, the walk-on, he was in there a few times getting reps with the ones as a lead blocker. And Jawan Johnson was taking direct snaps at quarterback. But Kelly's answer was, well, I'm not going to take Garrett Nussmeier off the field. Two things. One, Garrett Nussmeier was not off the field with what we saw in fall camp. Garrett Nussmeier was lined up out wide. I'm good with not taking your starting quarterback off the field. But also, you worked on this a lot during fall camp, and you have a package in place. He said, we have a package in place, but I don't want to take Garrett Nussmeier off the field. So basically, you worked on this in fall camp. You have it in place, but you're never going to run it, is kind of what I took away from it. So maybe throw that out the window. But there's also the faction of LSU fans that have said, we'll just replace Nussmeier with Michael Van Buren altogether. I disagree with that. I think Garrett Nussmeier at 80% is better than Michael Van Buren. I saw Michael Van Buren in fall camp. He struggled a little bit. Now, at the time, I did not realize he was going against maybe the best defense in all of college football, but still he struggled. He missed some throws. He was good against Southeastern, but you're not playing a team of that caliber for the rest of the year. But everyone's saying, well, just put in Van Buren. He can run. I mean, he can stretch the field. He can be part of your running game. He really doesn't, though. Like, if you go back and look at what he did last year at Mississippi State, because he started 8 games last year for Mississippi State, and it was because, if you remember, Blake Shapen went down after week 4. They put in Van Buren, and he did some good things through the air, but when you go look at his rushing numbers, they're just not there. And honestly, credit to hailstate.com. They do a great job of, like, because, you know, in college football, they do the stupid rule of sack yardage counts against your rushing totals. I think that's dumb. Well, at Hail State, they do, here's how many attempts they had, here's what they gained, here's what they lost in sack yardage. So taking sack yardage out of it, Michael Van Buren's best game last year on the ground, it was against UMass. Now, he had 2 rushing touchdowns, but his running total, 9 carries for 36 yards. His longest rush was 17 yards. I mean, remember, people a week ago clowned Garrett Nussmeier. Oh, he had the 26-yard run against Southeastern. His previous long was only like 14. Michael Van Buren's is 17. And I've heard the argument of, well, you know, he didn't have to run in that offense, but like you can go watch him in high school. He ran there. I went and did that yesterday. There's a 10.5 to 11-minute clip on YouTube. It's free. It's a huddle video. You can see Michael Van Buren's entire senior year. I saw him take off and run a handful of times. Like, look, I mean, this LSUsports.net has his bio. When you go look at it, it mentions his high school numbers, and the tape backs it up, believe me. His senior year of high school, he missed 4 games, but his senior year of high school, the whole season-wide total, he had 125 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. I'm not saying Michael Van Buren can't run. What I'm saying is everyone's assuming, and their perception is that he can run the football. Maybe he can, but the only thing we have to go by right now is the numbers of what he's done in high school and at Mississippi State. And the numbers don't tell that. They actually tell a completely different story. They tell the story of a guy who's pretty good at the short to intermediate passes that can take off when he needs to, but doesn't do it a whole lot. Sound familiar? Like, obviously something needs to be done with LSU's running game. I'm not here telling you it's great. It's awful. You struggled to run the ball and had less than 60 yards rushing against the 14th ranked defense in the SEC and Ole Miss. Like, not only did you struggle running the ball, you struggled against a bad team. Your offensive line's bad. We know that. Your running game's been bad, in my opinion, for 4 years now. Obviously, something needs to be fixed in the running game. But to say that Michael Van Buren's going to come in here and be that answer, I don't think Michael Van Buren helps you in the running game, at least not significantly. He can move around in the pocket. And people continue to say, well, I saw him in the Southeastern game. Yeah, he moved around in the pocket. You guys, off the top of your head, know what he did in the Southeastern game running? It was 4 carries for 16 yards. Again, he could move a little bit, but he's not a Jaden Daniels type. First off, you're not getting that again, but this is not a guy that looks to run. If you want to say, well, Garrett Nussmeier's too hurt to play and I want to play Michael Van Buren, I'll listen to the argument. I don't think it's correct, but I'll listen to the argument. You telling me, well, if you put in Michael Van Buren, it keeps the defense honest. They can't drop 8 into coverage and it automatically improves your running game because of his ability as a rusher. I can't get behind that. And again, maybe he can and he just hasn't been asked to do it. But all of that is speculation. The only thing we have to go by are his numbers, and the numbers say that the guy's not much of a runner. And the high school tape shows that he's not that much of a runner. Something needs to be done. I just don't know if Michael Van Buren can help you, and it doesn't sound like he's going to because Brian Kelly said, point blank, I'm not taking Garrett Nussmeier off the field. All right, look, we're going to take a timeout. We're going to talk a little bit more LSU next. Preston Guy from TigerBait.com coming on in his normal spot next. I'm going to avoid the running game if at all possible with him. I wanted to get into it a little bit there, but frankly, I'm tired of talking about it. We know the running game's bad. It's probably not going to get any better. It's just something LSU is going to have to navigate and hopefully improve as the season goes along. But we're talking more Tigers next. That's coming up here on the Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The Hunt Palmer Show. You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
Welcome back in Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Taylor Sharp sitting in the host chair for our guy, Hunt Palmer. We do it every Friday around this time. Let's bring in our guy, Preston Guy from TigerBait.com. The most expensive guest of the week, actually, because when I texted him yesterday to make sure he was still good to go, his text was, since I have to talk to you, my rate has doubled. Well, Preston, that's fine. We're going to send the bill to Hunt Palmer. It's his fault you're having to do this. So whatever the fee is, we're sending it to our guy, Hunt Palmer.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that. And I appreciate you making sure everybody on the air hears it so we hold them accountable. I just want to do some quick math that 2 times 0 is still 0. So I'll make sure that Hunt gets the doubled invoice.
I think he can handle that. I don't think that'll do too much of a dent to him on the financial front. All right, Preston, look, it's a football Friday, but not for us Tiger fans. I mean, you're going to watch games across the country, but LSU not playing. And, there's a lot of different opinions of like, oh, well, it's good to have a bye week after a loss so you can reset. But also, as a fan, you kind of want to get back out there because now you have to sit on this loss for 2 weeks. What are your thoughts on like a bye week after a loss? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Where do you kind of sit on that?
Well, it's great for the team to actually win the game, but as us watching, it sucks because we have to, sit and mull over just how inept your offense was. And, on Monday night I did my show and I had a nice 7-minute rant, monologue, whatever you want to call it, on just how bad the offense has been and how inexcusable it is for the coaches. But now, okay, you get that off your chest, and then what's next? You know what I mean? Like, all right, we're stuck with that same frustration is what we ought to mull over. But for the team, and particularly, I don't want to throw the word injury out loosely for Nussmeier, but I think he might be hurting.
No, there's something going on, Preston. You're not off on that. There's something up.
Yeah, whether he's injured or what, he's hurting is because you don't just go from a guy who's got a cannon arm to, looking like a 38-year-old, Brett Favre with torn paper or whatever. Like, he looks like Peyton Manning his final year is what he looks like out there right now. So he looks like a quarterback who is in pain. So give me those 2 weeks to let him heal up and let's figure out. And by the way, they're giving him the week off and letting Van Buren get first-team reps. So, if Nuss can't give you what you need to do, well, then the Van Buren's getting prepared. So it's probably just what the doctor ordered if you actually want to win the football game.
All right, well, look, the bye week, it's a chance to improve some things, right? I ain't talking running game, okay? We've done it all week. I'm tired of it. I just did a running game last segment. So outside of the running game, what improvements do you want to see going into South Carolina that maybe they fix in this bye week?
Well, and I don't know. My hot take, probably what a lot of people aren't going to hear is, I feel like the running game is beyond repair, in my opinion.
Preston, I kind of just said that last segment.
Okay. Well, then I guess I'm just regurgitating what you said. My bad, Taylor.
No,
but yeah, I think if you're going to win anything of substance, it's going to be behind a passing attack that, keeps them off their heels and hopefully stay on the field at least long enough to get them being honest, right? Now, unfortunately, it all starts up front, and right now they can't block a 3-man front with 8 men dropping coverage. That's never a recipe for success. So you've got to tighten that up. I don't know if you need to bring in running backs for protection or whatever it may be, but the protection up front is inexcusably bad right now. It is not performing at an SEC level. So you got to tighten that up, but then outside of that, you got to figure out how you can get a quarterback who can throw the ball more than 15 yards. Because right now you haven't been able to have that with any consistency.
Right. And, I've seen a lot of people criticize Joe Sloan. And look, I get it. Everyone out there thinks that they can call plays, right? And we'll talk about him as a play caller in just a second. But, to your point, if Nussmeier is hurt and he's struggling to get the ball 15 yards down the field, you're also a little bit limited in what you could do. But kind of going back to the play calls, what did you – There's not a ton of strategy right now because you have a hurt quarterback and you can't run the ball. But maybe what have you made of the scripted plays, the first 15? Because we looked at it the other day on OTB and I think the last 4 games you gained a total of 26 yards on your first drive. Those are the plays you come in knowing you're going to run. What's maybe your thought on this philosophy so far this year?
It seems like every game you come out and your offense is just as slow as possibly imaginable. Mm-hmm. It's almost like the adjustments are better than the opening script. But I don't know if it's that the play calling of script is that bad. or if just on every play you have a quarterback who can't stretch the field, who's missing open play. One thing that stands out to me, like remember the Barry and Brown underthrow, and I feel like we're overusing this example, but it's just so
the Louisiana Tech game, right?
Right. Well, that was Louisiana Tech, Barry and Brown underthrow, right? It was intercepted. That was in your first 15 plays of the game, right? So sometimes there's script and stuff where there's open players, but between the drops, the missed blocks, the underthrows, the poor accuracy plays. I mean, like I remember, like one of the early plays against Ole Miss, they hit Bauer Sharp for what would have been a first down if Nussmeier just doesn't hit him in the ankle. So I look at it less of the script and play calling. I think if your play calling is doing anything wrong, it's that you're doing too much and you don't have, a 15, 20 bread and butter plays that you can run in your sleep. That would be my, and the fact that they're not implementing anything to initiate an attempt at a power running game. You ran with a fullback one play and you never went back to it ever again. Those are the flaws that I see in the play calling, but more so than anything, it's the execution. I mean, players, at the end of the day, the play call is what the play call is. You got to block for it. You got to execute on what is called.
Preston, want to get a little bit more positive as we get to the back half of this interview. This defense under Blake Baker has been incredible. And, last segment I was talking a little bit of like, the backups, it wasn't just Nussmeier. Like all the quarterbacks kind of struggled in fall camp. But when you and I were out there on the sidelines, we didn't realize at the time that they were going up against maybe one of the best defenses in all of college football. Where do you rank this defenses among like units you've seen this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly in the top 10. I mean, easily. You can point out a few flaws they had against that Ole Miss unit, right? I'm going to point out the fact that they were on the field 86 plays.
Right.
And they gave up 24 points to one of the brightest minds in college football. I think anytime you're out there that long and you give up that few points, you've done a pretty good job. Now, they did give up more than 450 yards, and obviously, Tristan Chambers was able to take advantage of them running the ball well. But there's only so much you can ask of a unit when your offense leave them out there hanging to dry as long. So I like a lot of what Blake Baker's doing. I still think this defense is good enough to carry this team to a championship, but you got to get this. The offense at least has to manage the game. You have to at least have a respectable offense that can stay on the field and put up 25 points.
Right. I mean, no, I'm right there with you. Like, you scored 25 on offense. You're beating 90% of the teams you play this year because your defense is that good. All right. I want to throw a little bit of a different one at you. This can be positive or negative. Take it however you want. You got a surprise player so far through the first quarter of the season for the Tigers?
Surprise player. Well, as good surprise, I'm hoping it's what you're aiming for. There's probably been a lot of bad. I mean, the bad surprise, if that's what you're hoping for, it's got to be Garrett Nussmeier,
right.
for sure.
Right.
We all expected him to be an absolute stud, and we've gotten the exact opposite. The good surprise, let me think here. Deshaun Spears is a real good one. We probably didn't expect much from him, and he's come in and made a very strong impact. Bernard Gooden, but we kind of expected him from fall camp. I mean, I guess the good surprise has just been how dominant this defense has been as a whole.
Right. All right, Preston, before we get you out of here, just one more. Okay, you're sitting at 4-1 now. You lose to Ole Miss. You got a tough slate of games coming up ahead of you. Give me, just right now, at this moment, what do you think LSU's final record will be?
Yeah, well, I do expect that, there's ebbs and flows of the season, right? And your offense isn't people improve and get worse throughout the season. That's just how football works, right? I mean, and a lot of times you have to base it off of what you've seen. What I've seen out of this offense, I mean, if you don't improve pretty substantially, 84 is your ceiling right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of there.
I do expect some improvement, but I haven't seen it yet. So it's hard for me to predict that's what's going to happen. I honestly think if you had turned to a backup quarterback, your ceiling increases, but we don't even know that they're going to get that. We don't know. sits in my gut as hard to predict that they don't get better. You're at a pretty low point, a pretty deep trough in terms of offensive production. It seems like there's only room to go up. It's just, are you capable of going up enough to let that defense have a chance to win you games?
All right, so we're going 8-4 right now.
Yeah, based off of what I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 8-4, 9-3. I'm right there with you, Preston. All right, dude, we've kept you long enough, man. Thanks so much for hopping on. That is Preston Guy right there, TigerBait.com. Preston, thanks for the time.
All right, guys, see you soon.
All right, we're going to take a quick timeout. When we get back, we're going to shift. It's still going to be Football Friday. We're going to go a little bit more towards the NFL. Me, Jacob Beck, we're going to give you some surprise teams in the NFL. I got some positives. I got some negatives. We're hitting on that next. You're on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Vaughn and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Whenever I say remodel, you might think, oh, that's a huge project, going to cost a fortune, going to take forever, have to leave my home. Well, that stuff can happen, but that's not really what we're talking about here. To further that point, let's just talk about something simple like a tub to shower conversion. That's not massively expensive. That's not super invasive. That's not super time consuming. It's a simple process that can be done if your bathtub is not used, if it's old and dingy, if it's not functional. You take that bathtub out, put in a glass walk-in shower. It changes the aesthetic, changes the functionality of your bathroom, adds value to your home. And David Vaughn and his team can help you with it every step of the way. They handle everything. You don't call him and then call the guy to handle this part, and this guy handles the floor. And one contractor, one call. It's One Bath and Closets. Find them online at onebathandclosets.com. Get that free consultation and get that process started today. It's One Bath and Closets. Find them online, onebathandclosets.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Quirks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
Welcome back in. Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Taylor Sharp here with you, filling in for Mr. Hunt Palmer, who will be back on Monday. We got a Football Friday edition here brought to you by Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. Right now, I want to shift a little bit to the NFL. We'll talk Saints, Giants a little bit later, and we'll have Ross Jackson on in hour number 2. But right now, I just kind of want to look at maybe the season as a whole, because there's a lot of things that have really surprised me. And Beck, I'll go to you first. Give me a team out there. Like we'll go positive and negative. We'll start positive first. Is there a team out there that has surprised you in a positive way?
Yes, the one that I actually talked about this on the show maybe a week ago. We were doing an NFL tier list, and they're definitely the one I immediately think of, and it's the Indianapolis Colts. You bring in a quarterback in Daniel Jones, who no one ever would have thought was going to have a chance at being successful. Starting for a Colts team that wasn't good last year. I mean, they I don't know what was their record. I think they won maybe five or six games last year, maybe 7.
It wasn't good.
No, it wasn't good.
So that's what I got for you.
Yeah, that's all. They weren't good, and they turn around and they go out and blow out Miami in week 1. Who Miami probably isn't very good this year, but still, that's a big opening win. You go, you play Denver at home, win a close one there. You blow out the Titans, who probably aren't that good either. But then you go on the road and play the Rams, who look to be a pretty good team, and you lost the game by 1 touchdown. And the rest of their schedule is pretty favorable. They got the Raiders and the Cardinals next. They do have to go on the road to LA again, but who cares about playing in LA? Then you get the Titans, and their schedule is really not that bad. I could really see them contending for the AFC South. And Daniel Jones has just been really solid for them. And it's almost like anytime a quarterback gets drafted by a New York team, that they're just kind of destined for failure. And we've seen now with multiple examples, Geno Smith hasn't been as good this year or last year, but he was really good for the Seahawks for a few years. And then you've got Daniel Jones now with starting really, really well for the Colts, and Sam Darnold, has had his good few years as well. So for me, the Colts are probably the biggest, the best positive surprise for me.
No, I don't hate that answer. And it's funny. I was looking at this last night when I decided we wanted to do this. I originally wanted to go Colts, but I was like, I'm not going Colts. They hadn't played anybody. But to your point, it doesn't really matter that they hadn't played anybody because Titans, you're probably winning that game. I think they are by far, good news for Saints fans. I don't think you have the worst team in the NFL because I think is the Tennessee Titans by a large margin. I don't think the Falcons are very good. The Chargers, yeah, they're good. Then you got the Texans, you've already beaten. They're not great. The Jags, what are they? I mean, I know they're 3-1, but how good are they? The only issue I have, again, is you started 3-0. The teams you beat were a combined 1-8 in those first 3 games. But you hung in there with the Rams. I think the Rams are a lot better. I think the Rams probably should have won the game last night. I think they let that one slip away. They definitely should have beat Philadelphia 2 weeks ago. You could argue, yeah, the Rams are sitting there at 3-2. You could argue they're 4-1, maybe even 5-0. I mean, that was a 27-20 ball game. Came right down to the wire. And to your point, as efficient as Daniel Jones is being, yeah, that's a team that could maybe make a little bit of a run. For me, hand up, I was dead wrong about this. I think every time I filled in for Hunt, filled in for Jake, Flynn, whoever, I said Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers are not going to work. And boy, was I wrong because they're 3-1 right now. They're probably going to run away with the AFC North. The Ravens are already 1-3. Now you lose Lamar Jackson for the next 2 to 3 weeks. You start 1-5. It's going to be hard to get back into that for anything more than a wild card spot. You have Jake Browning filling in for Joe Burrow. He looks atrocious. Now you have Dylan Gabriel starting his first game for the Browns. Their quarterback room's a mess like it always is. The Steelers are probably going to run away with that division. When I looked at it in the offseason, my thought was, I just don't think personality-wise, Aaron Rodgers and Mike Tomlin are going to fit together. Tomlin's, more that hard-nosed, kind of by-the-book guy. Aaron Rodgers does things a little bit differently, kind of likes to march to the beat of his own drum. Because a lot of people criticized Aaron Rodgers last year, and I did too, but when you go look at it, his numbers, just raw numbers, weren't quite as bad as the record showed with the New York Jets. And Beck just mentioned, hell, it's a football team in the state of New York. They're not good. They hadn't been good for a number of years. But I didn't think that Aaron Rodgers would be this good. I didn't think they'd be 3-1. And when you look at the injuries around that division, Steelers have a really good shot at winning that AFC North. I did not think that was going to be possible. All right, Beck, you got a quick negative for me because there's plenty of those to go around as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned them already. The Baltimore Ravens, man, it's especially now with Lamar being out. Kyle Hamilton apparently is going to be out for them for a while. One of the best safeties in the NFL. This is tough, man. Their defense is just so bad. It's incredible.
When have the Ravens ever had one of the worst defenses in the NFL? Because they got it this year.
Yeah, it's shocking. And like I said, I mentioned Kyle Hamilton, they have other guys on that defense that are good. I mean, it's not like they have a bunch of unqualified guys playing defense for them, but for some reason they just get into shootouts every game except for Cleveland, which Cleveland's really bad, and they just can't stop anybody. And Lamar can keep them, and he'll be able to keep them in some of those games that they can win shootouts, but this kind of feels like a Drew Brees and Saints offense where the defense is so bad and you have to score 30, 35 points to even have a chance at winning. And that's just you can't do that in the NFL. It's just not feasible to do that over especially 17 games. You just can't keep that up. And we see now with Lamar hurt, he's having to do a lot, and it caught up to him. And now that they got to play, their schedule is not super easy. They do get Houston and then the Rams next week or the week after that, but still, it's going to be it's really really crazy to think that the Ravens would start a season 1-3. By the way, I did mention this stat when we talked about the Ravens and Chiefs game last week. No team that started the season 1-3 has ever won a Super Bowl. So I think you can probably, especially with Lamar out, the Ravens are probably out of the consideration for the Super Bowl. They may have a problem with making the playoffs. They may just be a wild card team at this point.
Well, it's the Ravens. They were going to win the Super Bowl anyways because the Ravens the past couple of years have choked at big moments.
Well, that's true.
And not just Lamar. John Harbaugh's made coaching blunders all over the place. My negative is the Houston Texans. This is a team that has been to the playoffs back-to-back years. You're 1-3. The only team you beat, you destroyed the Tennessee Titans 26-0, but they're awful. Cam Ward is dead last in completion percentage, yards, and passing touchdowns. Basically, every important stat right now for the quarterback position, Cam Ward is last. That is the worst team in the NFL by far. That's your only win. And it's weird to say that a team that is giving up 11 points per game is 1-3. They have the best defense statistically in the NFL, and you're 1-3. We know D'Amico Ryans is a good coach. He's been to the playoffs twice. He's a great defensive coordinator. And you have weapons. Like, look at the defensive side of the ball. Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter, 2 elite edge rushers. You have Stingley, even though he's a little bit banged up. Jalen Petry's a really good member of your secondary. Like, that defense has pieces, and you're still not winning. It's a little bit of an indictment on C.J. Stroud for me. C.J. Stroud was really good as a rookie. Took a little bit of a step back last year, but he still got the team to the playoffs and won a playoff game against the Chargers, so I didn't look into it too much. This is a Texans team that they have weapons on offense. Like, I understand that Joe Mixon hasn't played. Woody Marks looks good. Nick Chubb's look better than people expect. Their offensive line's bad, but you have Nico Collins, who, when fully healthy, is a borderline top 10 receiver. Jaden Higgins has shown some promise as a 6'4" rookie out of Iowa State. I mean, he was a highly touted guy coming into the draft. Christian Kirk is out there. He's a solid receiver. And Dalton Schultz is playing like a top 5 tight end. Like, you have weapons there. And a lot of people want to blame the play calling. But Bobby Slowick was your offensive coordinator a year ago. Your offense was a little bad. He's not the offensive coordinator this year, and it's even worse. Like, I like C.J. Stroud. I was really high on him, not coming into the draft, but after that rookie year, I'm like, okay, look, the Texans may have found a little bit. He's taken a few steps back, and I understand his O-line's bad, but they're going to have to turn that thing around in a big way for me to believe in the Houston Texans. They got a decent schedule coming up, but, I mean, how much better is it going to get? I just mentioned Stingley's banged up. Like, they weren't winning when fully healthy. Now they got a few injuries along the offensive line that already wasn't good. You have Stingley banged up, and C.J. Stroud just doesn't seem right. I mean, his numbers have dipped. Rookie year to the second year. This year, they're not good at all. I like D'Amico Ryans. I love that defense. Again, 11 points per game, best in the NFL. You're 1-3. Something has to be done with that offense. All right, we're going to take a quick timeout. We get back to close out hour number 1. We're going to have a quick New Orleans Saints, New York Giants segment. I'll kind of give you my overall thoughts, maybe a little score prediction. Then we'll have Ross Jackson on at 2:15 for a little bit of a longer breakdown. That's coming up next here on the Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com is the website. Every car that is on the lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. Safety, probably a big deal if you're in the market for a vehicle. If you go shop at Genesis of Baton Rouge, you will know that you're getting behind the wheel of one of the safest cars on the road, because every single model on the line, every single model was a IIHA top safety pick. Some of them were top safety picks plus. So from the entry level to the highest end, you're talking about a car that is among the safest on the road. That's a big, big deal. So you start there, then you go check out the style, the comfort, all those bells and whistles that come with a luxury brand of vehicle. That's all there for you at Genesis of Baton Rouge. And if you make a purchase, every single purchase comes with a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. Every single purchase comes with 3 years of complimentary valet maintenance. It's all there at Genesis of Baton Rouge. I invite you to go by and see them. Airline at Pico across from Women's Hospital, or start your process today online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. genesisofbatonrouge.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp.
Generation of light beer with only 2.6 carbs.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by...
Welcome back in. Final segment, hour number 1, here on a Football Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Beck, if I knew you were going to have so much trouble with that, I never would have asked you to play a song.
All right. I mean, look.
I never would have done it.
No, you have to understand. I never play anything else for bump music besides the bed that we rotating bed that we have.
This ain't Hunt Palmer, man.
I understand that, but I am so used to doing that I just naturally do it. It's just what I do. It's a habit.
I did request it like maybe a minute ago. So I wasn't
ready.
In your defense, it was super last minute, but
it's all right. We got it. We got it in the end.
For those wondering, it is brought to you by Corks. I know that in Beck's rejoin, it said brought to you by and then cut off. It is brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. All right, look, we got a few minutes before we got to hit that top of the hour break. I want to give a few quick thoughts here on Saints versus Giants. Look, obviously, this is not a preview of the Super Bowl or any sort of playoff game for that matter. Neither of these teams are very good, but I hear, oh, this is a must-win game for the Saints. This is a must-win game for the Saints. And like, I'm kind of in that boat, and not because like, oh, if you lose this game, you're not going to make the playoffs. Playoffs are out of the window for this team. I think they're out of the window for both teams. But you need this win because I don't know where any wins come from if you don't get them here. Also, you get a win here, maybe you could go on a little bit of a run. It's not a particularly tough part of your schedule right now, but it does get tougher a little bit later down the stretch. Like, okay, you have the New York Giants at home. You have the New England Patriots at home. You have the Chicago Bears on the road. I don't think you will, but it's not out of the realm of possibility for the Saints to maybe win all three of those. Now, the Bears are playing a lot better, and the Patriots are a really good team. But you have 2 or 3 of those 3 games on the road. If you don't get at least 2 of those, like you play Tampa at home, Tampa's really good, you're losing that. You go to the Rams, who I think should potentially be undefeated. Like, take record out of it. They might be one of the best teams in the NFC. You'll probably get one of the 2 Carolina games because they're not good either. But, I mean, I just look at it like you got to get a win on the board. Like, I'm tired of everyone saying, oh, well, you're 0-10 with Spencer Rattler. I understand that. I do. But the Saints' issues is not a quarterback problem. Spencer Rattler's been fine. You put in Tyler Shuck, pretty much the exact same thing's going to happen because there's not a whole lot of talent around these guys. So will the Saints win? I gotta tell you, I think they do. I think the Saints actually get it done. You're facing a rookie quarterback at home. Now, Jackson Dart made some things happen last week, and he upset the LA Chargers. But he made a lot of things happen on the ground. Like, you look at his passing through the air. What did he have? 145, 150? If you could stop the run, which they're already down Tyrone Tracy, you got Jackson Dart, Cam Scatterby. You key in on those 2 guys, limit what they can do on the ground. Look, Malik Neighbors is out for the season with a knee injury. I mean, their 2 receivers out wide are going to be Darius Slayton and Wan'Dale Robinson. Both really good players. I don't know if they scare you as an opposing defense. I don't think the Saints secondary is going to be, shaking in their boots the night before the game, worried about covering those guys. However, the Saints secondary hasn't been great either. You're getting a little bit more healthy. I know you're out without Cesar Ruiz. Cesar Ruiz ain't that good anyways. You get Trevor Penning back. I know people have a certain opinion on Trevor Penning, but it's important that you lose a guard, but you get another starting guard back. So you're not without 2 starting offensive linemen. Also, what's the deal with Chase Young? Like, when we have Ross on, we're going to talk about that. I mean, the guy had like a calf injury before the season started. They're like, oh, well, it's kind of a week-to-week thing. He may miss 1 or 2 weeks. Like, we're in week 5, and Chase Young is still not practicing. Don't really know what the deal is there. I mean, you invested a lot of money into a premium position, and you're 5 weeks in, and the guy doesn't look any closer to playing now than he did during week 1 right before the season started. Or you're facing a rookie quarterback at home. He doesn't have Malik Neighbors, his number 1 weapon. Quincy Riley looks like he's going to get the start in place of Isaac Edom. And yes, you're throwing a rookie out there, but how much worse can he be? Isaac Edom hadn't been great. And then when you look at the Saints' schedule, like, I know that their offense has been bad. I mean, they just haven't put up points. Their defense really hasn't been. And you haven't played juggernauts on offense or anything like that. You gave up 20 to the Cardinals. You lost 26-21 to the Niners, so a competitive game. And I understand you lost by 11 points to the Buffalo Bills, but if Spencer Rattler in the 4th quarter makes that throw to Brandon Cooks in the end zone, the Saints take the lead in Buffalo. Now, do they win that game? Probably not, because after that, Josh Allen kind of woke up. Him and James Cook ran it down your throat. They went down the field. They extended their lead. But you have a chance to take the lead in the 4th quarter on the road to a team that some consider the best team in the NFL, and you were, what, was it 12.5, 13.5 point underdogs going into that game? You've been competitive. The only game you have not been competitive in is the Seattle Seahawks game, and honestly, like, that was just a cluster from the start. Seattle gets the ball. They go right down the field and score. Your defense wasn't ready for it. Then you punt the ball to them. They take a punt return back to the house, 14-0. You're punting from your own 10. They come in. They block the punt. They get the ball inside your 10. They score. It's 21-0 in the first 6 minutes of that game. And the Saints are having to throw their way out of it, play catch up. That's not who they are. Like, I get it. You gave up 44 points to the Seattle Seahawks. It was just a bad showing from the start. Now, it counts as one of your performances, but that's kind of the outlier so far. I mean, you've been competitive for the most part, and I think this is the worst team you've played so far. Again, rookie quarterback, you're at home. I expect the Superdome to be loud. I hope it is. I hope they're still out there in full force because this defense has shown flashes. Like, your pass rush has been okay. Carl Granderson has done a pretty good job. Your secondary hadn't been great, but they're hurt on the offensive side at wide receiver as well. I do think it's a pretty good matchup for the New Orleans Saints. All right, that's going to do it here for hour number 1 here on a Football Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We're talking college football, and we got Ross Jackson talking Saints. That's all coming up in hour number 2 here on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is the website. Property and casualty or group employee benefits. Your one-stop shop for all things insurance is, of course, the Highland Insurance Group. If you're a business owner and you don't have a great relationship with your insurance broker, they're just the guy who came with the lowest premium number, that's one way to handle it, but it might not be the best way, especially when something happens. Whether it's a hurricane or a car accident or a cyber breach or a lawsuit or an injury. When that happens, you're going to need your insurance to respond. And if you only have the insurance in place because it was the cheapest one, it may not. Jonathan Carver and his team can be a trusted advisor and a part of your team as a business to make sure that your business continues to run even if the event happens. Give them a call. Or check them out online, HighlandIG.com. They're right here in Baton Rouge, but they can help you out statewide. It's Jonathan Carver and his team at the Highland Insurance Group. They're online at HighlandIG.com.